Okay, my hope is that everybody can see me. I wanted to thank the team at Canadian Equipment Outfitters for putting together this e-open house. It took a lot of initiative and a lot of creativity to come up with this idea during these strange times, and I appreciate the invite. My name is Spencer Witt. I'm the District Sales Manager for Western and Northern Ontario for Husqvarna Construction Products. I've been invited here today to speak with you a little bit about the product range and applications of some of the tools that we carry within the construction division. I'll preface this by saying Husqvarna Construction Products is one of three divisions of Husqvarna Group. The most popular one being the Forest and Garden lineup, which I think you guys have seen earlier. We also have Gardenia, which is our home and garden lineup that you might see at Canadian Tire or Home Depot or wherever. And finally, we've got the construction division, which is where I work. And our business is focused around the concrete, construction, and stone industries. So we've got a huge wide range of products that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. And hopefully you guys will get something out of this today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out in the live chat. There's an opportunity to post some comments or ask some questions. Love to hear from you guys, so if there's more details that you're looking to get on anything, please don't hesitate to ask, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have. Okay, so without further ado, I'm just going to jump into it. And here we go. So the things that I'd like to cover today is just a kind of a brief history on Husqvarna, the brand, a little bit about Husqvarna and Canadian Equipment Outfitters as a master dealer of ours. We're going to talk briefly about diamond blades and power cutters. We're going to go on to find out where Husqvarna Construction Products fits on a job site. You know, at what point in a job and where on a job can we find some of the tools that we have to offer. And finally, we're going to talk about building a solution. So, you know, obviously you can buy one tool, but there are many different ways that these tools can work together to help you get your work done. So we're going to find out about what kind of packages can be put together to accomplish any number of different tasks. So, when we look at Husqvarna, the brand, it's a Swedish company based out of the town of Husqvarna, spelt slightly differently than the way that it's spelt here. And it started as a weapons foundry in 1689. From that point on, the company began developing all kinds of different, household products, tools. They went on to do motorcycles, lawnmowers, chainsaws. Were a portion of Electrolux at one point. And then, as you can see, getting into robotic technologies. I think you guys just watched a video on the robotic lawnmower. On the construction side, we get into demolition robots and remote control concrete grinders and polishers. So there's a long history of manufacturing excellence with this organization, over 330 years of it. So regardless of what we're making, I think Husqvarna has done a really wonderful job of innovating and creating new ways of helping whoever they're serving to accomplish tasks more efficiently and effectively. So it's really neat to work for a company like this that has such a great history. So Husqvarna Construction Products and Canadian Equipment Outfitters. So as you guys may know, as customers of Canadian, they cover the construction, masonry, and landscape industries primarily. They do a ton with power cutters, as you can see in the photo here. Diamond blades, they carry masonry saws, and they also stock all sorts of compaction equipment that you might see in their showroom as well. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is how do we know which diamond blade we want to select for our job? And there's a lot of misconceptions about diamond blades. I mean, people figure that a diamond blade is a diamond blade, and this is not the case. If you were to see our catalog, it looks something like a phone book. And the reason for that is we make a diamond tool for every application that you can think of. So the first thing that we need to understand is material hardness. So a big part of what diamond blade is going to suit our need is going to come down to how hard is the material that we intend to cut. And you can see here we've got a different variety of things. We've got reinforced concrete, we've got marble, we've got cinder block, we've got asphalt, we've got precast pipe, we've got hard armor stone. So there's a wide variety of different materials that we might get into, and there's a different diamond tool for each of these applications. So, understanding the scale here. The biggest thing to understand about diamond tools is the softer and more abrasive the material that I intend to cut, the harder the bond of the diamond tool that I want to select. And the reason for that is because the diamond, which is embedded in the segment of the blade, is what's actually doing our cutting action. And in a soft abrasive material, those diamonds are not going to wear as quickly as they would cutting something hard. A hard material is going to break down those diamonds faster. And so when we're cutting something soft like asphalt, we want to hang on to the diamonds in that segment for longer. And so what we get is longer life out of those kind of tools with a harder bond blade. If we're cutting something that's very hard, like armor stone or heavily reinforced concrete, we're going to see that we need actually a softer bonded blade. And actually, I apologize. I think that I have forgotten to share my screen with you. So I'm going to back up a little bit here. I apologize. Let's try this again. There's your timeline that I was talking about earlier. And here we go into the different materials. I apologize, guys. Okay, now we're on material hardness. We're back on track. So if we're cutting something that's very hard, the diamonds embedded in our segment are actually going to break down faster. So what we want is for that segment to wear away at a rate that allows for fresh diamonds to stay on our cutting edge. And so the harder the material, armor stone, heavily reinforced concrete, softer bonded blade. Soft materials, we want a harder bond. Okay? How deep will we be cutting? A lot of this is going to be informed by the tool that we're using. So that's our next question here. What kind of saw are we using? The power of that saw is going to come into play as well. So depending on how powerful the tool is, we may want a softer or harder bond based on that information. But a lot of these tools are going to be naturally geared towards the tools that they fit on. So these are more intuitive questions. But most importantly, we need to figure out what is the material that we're cutting. Now we can move on to some of our most popular selling power cutters. So these are handheld gas saws. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the K770 saw. This is our #1 best-selling gas saw. It's a 2-stroke power cutter. It has a 12 or a 14-inch blade. You can buy them in either configuration, 12-inch or 14-inch size. It's a 5-horsepower saw. Very nicely balanced with the handle up top and a handle on the rear. It allows this blade or this saw to hang in cutting position, which is very ergonomically friendly for the operator. It's got a very, very good filtration system located up on the top of the saw, away from the dust that's being produced by the blade. This is our best-selling saw here. Interesting feature, some of you may have been familiar with the K760 saw, the previous iteration of this. The new K770s actually have a bolt on the side of the cutting arm that allows you to automatically tension this belt. So all you do is you unlock that nut on the side there, and that will spring-load tension the belt. That feature exists both on the 770 and the big brother to that saw, the 970, which you see here on the right. These two saws operate very similarly. Again, both 2-stroke engines. The 970 comes in a 14-inch or a 16-inch configuration. It's a 6.5 horsepower or a 94 cc if you prefer. A little heavier, but a very powerful saw, great for production work. And here you can see how those two saws fit into our range of tools. So we have a pretty wide range of saws. We make rescue saws, we make rail saws, and on the bottom here, in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see a cut and break saw with the 2 blades just above that chainsaw there. You're going to see a concrete chainsaw down in the corner, and you're going to see a ring saw down in the middle there. These are 3 tools that Husqvarna has that are going to allow you to do deep cutting applications through reinforced concrete wall or brick and block. The ring saw capable of 10 inches depth in a single cut. The chainsaw comes in a 14 or a 16-inch bar configuration, allowing you to get a 15 or a 17-inch depth of cut. And the cut and break saw just above that is a dual blade cutting saw that allows you to cut 2 to 3 inches depth at a time, but will allow you to repeat that process as you break away the core that's left between the 2 blades. That will go up to a 16-inch depth through a reinforced concrete wall. Very handy saws to have. The cut and break actually comes in an electric configuration as well. So, moving right along, where does Husqvarna fit onto a job site? Here we can see a job site. We've got all kinds of different things going on. We've got freshly poured slabs down in the left-hand corner. We've got a bridge with asphalt leading up to our new building here. We've got a high-rise going up that perhaps has concrete precast slabs. There's all kinds of work to be had here. So, where does Husqvarna fit? Well, to give you an overview of the Husqvarna concrete portfolio, we can start with step one on the left-hand side here. First, we've got to start with site preparation, compaction. So before we can pour anything, we've got to make sure that the aggregate or the soil that we plan to work on has been prepped correctly. Otherwise, we're going to have potholes forming on our roads, or we're going to have concrete foundations sinking into the ground, or stonework that ends up not being laid correctly. So compaction is a really important aspect of this portfolio. From there, we're going to go on to pouring concrete. Well, if we're pouring concrete, we're going to need all kinds of placement tools. So that includes concrete vibrators, vibrating screeds, and so on and so forth, until we get on to concrete surfacing. This type of equipment is going to be largely revolving around walk-behind power trowels, and most recently, Husqvarna acquired the Wacker-Neuson division of ride-on trowels as well. So if you have large-scale work going on, Husqvarna has large ride-on trowels available to you as well. We'll see those later in the presentation. Once the floor has been poured, we've got to get into expansion joint cutting. You can see an example of that in the bottom photo there under the cutting and coring section. That's an expansion joint. We've got to do these expansion joints to stop our concrete slabs from cracking randomly. In the top photo there, you can see an example of a Soff-Cut saw, which would be an ultra-early entry saw that allows contractors to cut that slab the same day that it's being poured. And finally, we get into grinding. So you can see we've got a photo there of a contractor in an existing build where we've got a concrete slab that maybe needs to be prepared for an epoxy or resurfaced, or maybe he's bringing it up to a fine polish. So these are all examples of things that can be done with the Husqvarna lineup. Okay. And here's just kind of a rundown of the things that we just spoke about. So you can see there's really no part of a construction site that Husqvarna can't play a role in. We've got tools across the entire job from start to finish, restoration, whatever it might be. There's somewhere where we can fit into that. So looking at the compaction lineup, here you can see we've got tampers or rammers, or some people might call them jumping jacks. We've got 3 configurations. Each of these tools is going to be equipped with a GXR 120 Honda motor. The R denotes rammer, so this is a motor that was specifically designed for rammer applications. And what that means is the pitch of the cylinder on this motor is configured in a way that stops it from flooding when it's in transport position. It's a highly efficient tool, very well balanced. You may even find videos of this rammer tamping away on its own without an operator even hanging onto it. Not something I recommend doing, but just to show how well balanced it is, some people have done that demonstration. Very, very good tool here. Moving on, we get into forward plates. So these are gas-powered plates. The majority of the plates that we sell are going to be equipped with water tank, transport wheels, folding handles, and the anti-vibration handle that you see at the top there. That anti-vibration handle is first in class in the industry. There's no other tamper on the market that does as effective a job of reducing the vibration to the operator. This is very, very important for anybody that does this kind of work. If you've ever held on to one of these things for a day, you'll know why this is so important. Really, really great patented option on these. They're coming equipped on all of the tools that we sell, all of the walk-behind forward plates that we sell. You can get anything from a 12-inch soil plate down the LF50 there, all the way up to a 20-inch, 236-pound LF100. These plates are all suitable, except for the LF50, for asphalt and soil applications, and we're throwing in the water tank, so you're always equipped for the job at hand. Interestingly, these plate compactors come with a delta-shaped plate, except for the LF50, which stops these plates from sticking to asphalt when it's been freshly laid. This can be a very frustrating error to make for a lot of operators, having a piece of asphalt stick to the bottom of their plate and pull up. The delta-shaped plate is designed to easily separate from that sticky asphalt. One last thing worth mentioning, if you're a hardscaper or a landscaper, there are polyurethane block paving kits available for each of these models as well. So you can lay these on top of stone that you've just laid to compact them into place without having worries about damaging, cracking, or scratching the stone. From there, we get into the large reversible plates. The reason why they call them reversibles is because they're capable of operating both forward and in reverse. These are larger plates for bigger production work. They're available in gas and up to diesel models as we get into the larger units as well. Interesting feature about these, which is unique to the Husqvarna plates, is that these have actually a neutral zone, which means if you're trying to do something like spot compaction, these units are going to be capable of compacting in place. There is a neutral spot. To understand why that's different, some of the other plates on the market are going to force you to throw this machine in forward and reverse on an ongoing basis. It will not find a neutral. Unlike these here, we can set them in the neutral spot. We can compact the area that we intend to compact. In the top left there, you can see we've got a compaction meter as well. This compaction meter is going to allow the operator to know when compaction has been completed or when he's at risk of over-compacting the material, crushing the material, and ruining the aggregate that they've placed. This is really important as well. All right. Moving right along. So now we get into concrete placement. Here you can see one of our smart vibrators. This is a little bit different than what you might be used to seeing in a concrete vibrator. The smart vibrator actually has the motor installed in the head, the vibrating head. So the shaft that you're used to seeing here, the part that looks like a hydraulic hose, that's actually just wires. So you could tie that in a knot and still have that vibrating head operate. If you look at a different style of vibrator here, that's got a metal shaft that runs through it. It's got limits to how far it can be bent, and it is heavier and more at risk of being damaged or overheated. These smart vibrators don't have that issue. Important to note, why would we buy a smart vibrator? Well, the wide radius of action is the most important factor here. You can see we've got a 12 times, if you can see my screen here, 12 times the diameter of the vibrating head. So a traditional vibrator, like you might see here, is only 10 times. So what this means for us is we get higher productivity by about 20%. That vibrating head is going to affect an area 12 times the size of the head as opposed to 10 times the size of the head with a traditional vibrator. Additionally, it's lighter, it's easier to use. It's got safety features like if this unit is unplugged from a wall, for example, it will not start back up until the operator resets it and starts it again, stops things from vibrating out of control when we're not in use of the machine. It's available in a variety of sizes of heads and also lengths of shaft as well. And here you can see the standard electric vibrator that you might be used to seeing on job sites. Good, reliable machine, comes in 3 components. You're going to purchase a motor, a shaft, and a head of your choosing, so you can get a variety of different lengths and sizes of heads depending on what your needs are. These have been good, reliable units for us, and they're commonly purchased by contractors getting into all kinds of concrete work. Okay, from there, so let's say we've poured our concrete slab. We've got to get the surface nice and smooth. We've got 2 options in floating beams for you, one with and one without a motor. Obviously, it's better if you can use some type of vibration when you're pouring concrete. Concrete is prone to having air pockets trapped within the concrete slab, and so any type of vibration that we can use to get that air pocket out is going to be beneficial. Here you can see an operator using the BV20G, which is the gas-powered version, and that's going to be suitable for slabs up to 6 inches in depth. So you don't actually need to use a concrete vibrator, a traditional concrete vibrator in those applications. If you have a BV20G, a 6-inch thick slab is perfectly reasonable to simply use your vibrating floating beam here. If we're getting onto bigger jobs, we may want to use a BV30 bull float. These bull floats are again good for slabs up to 6 inches in thickness. And you can actually get a variety of different widths or lengths of screed blade depending on the application. So you can get a 6 foot wide blade up to a 14-inch wide blade depending on your application. Interesting feature on this BV30 is that it actually has an adjustable toggle at the bottom of it that will allow the operator to change the frequency of the vibration depending on the slump of the concrete. This is really useful. It makes this float useful in all kinds of different applications, and gives the operator great control over what they're trying to accomplish. Again, both of these units, they're going to be Honda motors on these as well. Okay, so we've set our concrete, we've flattened out the surface. Now we want to finish it. Here we can see what Husqvarna has to offer as far as a range of products for walk behind and ride on power trowels. You've got everything from a 36 and a 28 inch, 36 inch and 48 inch wide walk behind trowel. There's a variety of configurations of motors, handles. You can get twist pitch controls over the blades, or you can use a pro shift that you see here, which is that forward and backwards motion. We've got all different sizes of ride-on trowels with mechanical steering. We've got dual fuel models. We've got hydrostatic controls as well if you're doing production jobs where operator comfort is really a high priority. All kinds of different blades for these screeds as well, combination blades, finishing blades, finishing pans as well, floats. So there's really no application that these trowels can't touch when it comes to finishing a concrete slab. The reason you don't see our 24-inch edger trowel here is because the 24-inch edger trowel is from a previous acquisition for the walk behind trowels. We do have an edger trowel. It's just not a part of the Wacker Neuson lineup that we recently acquired, so it's not on this page here, but we do have edger trowels as well. Okay, so we've set our concrete, we've created our finished surface. Now we've got to do our expansion joint cutting. So what you see here is an example of a Soff-Cut saw. This is a freshly poured slab. It's set in place, and here you can see a good example of this fresh concrete being cut by the operator. It's very, very important to understand why we do these expansion joint cuts. Concrete slabs are cut because we talked about those air pockets earlier. When air gets trapped under a concrete slab, it's wanting to escape to the surface. And it will do that by creating a crack in the slab to allow itself to release. It's stress and pressure that's being produced as that slab is curing. The earlier that we can get onto a concrete slab to do this type of cutting, the less likely we are to have those cracks appear where we don't want them to. So that crack is actually going to hit our cut. And so the earlier we place that cut in a slab, the earlier we've told that crack where to appear. And so this is kind of an insurance policy against that random cracking. You'll see this kind of cutting spec'd into all kinds of large jobs where it's critical that these slabs not fail and crack unexpectedly. For example, airport runways, large warehouse facilities, things like that. But you can see down in the bottom left there, we've got a Soff-Cut 150. And this is for contractors that want to make sure that when they're doing garages or patios or driveways or walkways, that they're doing the best professional job of their expansion joint cutting that they can do. And they want to make sure that they don't get a phone call from a homeowner or a client saying, hey, that slab you poured last week is now cracked and it looks like crap. This can be a very costly mistake for a lot of contractors, can result in having to tear out slabs depending on how bad it is. And so it's something that we want to avoid at all costs. And this Soff-Cut system is the best way to do that. The way that these machines work, you can see in the photo here, we've got a blade block right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse on the left side of the saw. That's actually a spring-loaded skid plate that's mounted to the bottom of that. And that's holding the soft concrete in place while the blade is cutting up down the center of it. This stops aggregate from kicking out or chipping happening at the edges of these cuts. When it comes to the timing of this cutting, essentially if you can roll a saw onto the slab without making a mark, it's now time to start cutting the slab. It's very critical that this cutting be done early, and so that's a good indicator of when the slab is ready for this cutting to occur. Okay? Any questions on this? I'm looking at the video chat here to see if there's any questions. I don't see any, but if you do have them, I will get back to you. Okay, so let's imagine now that this slab is cured, or we're working on a roadway or some type of concrete that's existed for some time now. It's a cured slab. Well, if we want to do flat work, a flat roadway or a flat driveway, we've got a huge range of flat saws or road saws, as some people call them. On the smallest side of things, we've got the gas saw here, FS309. It's a 14-inch saw, a really good alternative to contractors that might otherwise use a quick cut mounted on a cart. It's much more stable, much more productive, and requires much less maintenance because it's a 4-stroke engine. So there's a lot of advantages to going with a small flat saw over a quick cut on a cart, and that FS309 is a good option. In fact, that FS309 will be less expensive to purchase than it would be to purchase a handheld gas saw and a cart. So it's a really good option that way as well. If you want to get into something a little bit bigger, you've got the FS400 or the FS413. These are push saws with 20-inch blade capacity, very commonly seen on the side of roadways. Municipalities will use these for roadway repair, pothole repair, things like that. Really, really good, reliable tools. The only difference here between the two saws is the FS413 has got a little bit more bells and whistles. It's got a stable cutting platform where just the front body of the saw moves up and down, leaving the handles in the same position for the operator, versus the 400, which is a little bit more of a bare bones saw. All of these can be fitted with water tanks as well for wet cutting. From there we get into the larger flat saws. So now we're into a 24-inch saw perhaps with the FS524. These are self-propelled units, so this means that the operator's not having to push them, they actually will drive themselves. You've got the FS500 series that can come in a 518, 520, or 524. 518 being the 11 horse, it's actually a 20-inch saw now, I should say, not 18, but it's a 20-inch version. The FS520 is a bigger motor, 20-inch saw, 20 horsepower, as is the 524, a 20 horsepower unit with a 24-inch blade guard. From there we go into the FS3500G. This is a bigger, more powerful gas saw, the largest gas road saw that we do. It's a 37 horse Kohler motor, and it comes in 20, 26, and 30-inch configurations. And from there we get on to the big brothers. These are the diesel saws. These are for high production work. They are tier 4 diesel, so this means that they're very clean running saws. In fact, these have been seen in facilities where there's big open spaces. For example, the Chrysler facilities down in Windsor, these were running for a long, long time in those facilities. They're very, very clean running. So these are great high productivity diesel road saws. Okay. From there we get into coring. So Husqvarna has a really wonderful range of core drills available to you. You can see we've got the DM230, which is a handheld pistol grip configuration. And on the right-hand side, you've got the DM220. Very similar tools, just different configurations. The DM220 has a few more bells and whistles with a digital level and the ability to hook up to a vacuum system as well. Both of these drills are capable of doing 4-inch core bits by hand, and will handle up to a 6-inch core bit when mounted on the accessory stand that you can see below. Both of these stands are capable of traditional anchoring using lag bolts, but can also be vacuum mounted if the surface they're being mounted to is smooth enough, which will allow you to avoid having to drill a hole in the floor. These are very, very good, reliable handheld tools, very powerful, and both 3-speed models as well, depending on the size of bit you might be using. From there, we get into our stand-mounted drills. On the left, you see the DMS 240 drill. This is a medium-duty drill, good for bits up to 10 inches thick. They're capable of angle drilling as well, so you can see that stand can be adjusted actually to a variety of different angles, depending on how you want to drill your hole. It's a medium-duty drill, good for up to 10 inches. And it's a 2-speed, high and low. On the right-hand side, you've got the DMS 280. It's a heavy-duty drill. It'll do a 14-inch bit right out of the box and is capable of up to a 16-inch bit with a 2-inch spacer block to push that motor out a little bit further from that stand. Again, capable of angle drilling. This one here is a 3-speed motor, and it actually has an overload indicator on the top of the motor as well, LED indicator. It's got 5 lights. It'll be green, 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 yellow, red to indicate to the operator if they're risking overloading the the tool. Both of these have water connections, as diamond core drilling is almost exclusively done wet. And it should be mentioned that diamond core drills fit really well into applications where you've got heavily reinforced or even just any type of reinforcement in a concrete material. Where you might otherwise use a hammer drill with a carbide bit to do brick and block materials. If you've got some kind of reinforcement in that material, those teeth on those hammer drills are going to be ripped off, where a diamond core drill will cut through them. So it's a really good tool to use in those applications where you're unsure if you have reinforcement. From there, we go on to masonry saws. So this is the big MS610 masonry saw that is stocked at Canadian Equipment Outfitters. It comes in gas and electric configurations. You can buy them in 14, 20-inch, or 24-inch sizes, depending on your application. And this is suitable for big jobs where you're going to set this up on a job site where you plan to be for some time. It's suitable for facilities and stone yards. So you'll see these in a lot of factory shutdowns or refractory settings. So really, really great productive saws for those applications. They've got pumps as well, so for wet cutting, these are great saws. The little brother to that MS610 is the MS360. This is a very good transportable saw, really good for hardscaping and landscaping applications where you might be pulling up in your truck to show up at a homeowner's location. The 115 volt model is a 14 amp, which means you're going to be able to plug into that homeowner power without worrying that you're going to overload the circuit breaker. This is really nice feature. Very commonly used for guys that do a lot of interlock work and hardscaping work on job sites. Something unique about this MS360 is that it's actually capable of doing 45 degree and 22.5 degree cuts. If you can look towards the back of the motor here, I'll use my mouse, hopefully you can see that. You can see this can be adjusted to tilt the motor on this saw. That's a very unique feature on a masonry saw, not commonly found on a lot of them. This motor will tilt to allow the operator to cut at various angles to get, for example, wall caps or things like that they might be getting into. Really good, reliable saw. And the final interesting feature of this MS360 is it can be hooked up with a dust control system. So let's say you've got a HEPA vacuum that you use for all sorts of different applications. You can actually hook that vacuum up to a shoe, an accessory shoe that you can buy for this unit that's going to fire the dust from the material that you're cutting directly into that shroud. So common complaint from a lot of homeowners, if you're doing a lot of residential work, is they don't like the dust. The neighbor doesn't like it when his car gets covered in dust because the guy next door is having some stonework done. And so this is a really good way to avoid the dust and also not have to cut the stone wet, which a lot of masonry contractors and landscaping contractors don't like to do because it creates slurry and mess and can even stain the material. So this is a really handy feature for a lot of people. From there, we get into our small range of walk-behind concrete grinders. So you've got a wide variety of options here with a PG280. This is our small 11-inch head, good for residential prep work, whether you're just wanting to remove glue, paints, epoxies, or just clean up a concrete floor. The 400 is its big brother, just a bigger, more powerful version of that, good for all sorts of prep and removal work. And from there we get into our planetary systems, which is what you see here. These 280s, the 280 and the 400 being single head models, not suitable for polishing applications. If you move into the 450 or the 510, you're going to see you've got these planetary systems here. And these are suitable for grinding and polishing applications. Of course, if we're going to be grinding and cutting all of this concrete, we've got to have a range of dust control systems as well. You can see we've got a nice wide range of products, everything from a small S13 vacuum that might be suitable for your small PG280 or hooking up to a hand grinder or a core drill that you're wanting to do dust control on, to an or an S26 here. That might be suitable for your MS360 masonry saw or your bigger PG400 or 510 grinders. And if dust control is extremely important, you've got an S36 option, which is a bigger model here as well. These stand-up vacuums are basically top of class when it comes to dust control. They're transportable. You can see that they use a longo pack system here at the bottom of these units. What that means is it's a long sausage tube. The benefit of this being you never expose yourself to the dust or contaminants that are involved in your grinding or cutting application. With a traditional vacuum, a canister style vacuum, you're opening it up, the bag is open, you're creating dust, it's pluming in the air. With these S-line vacuums, once the dust goes into the bag, it's zip tied and cut off, and you pull down a fresh bag. It's similar to a diaper genie you might have used if you're a parent. And so once those contaminants go into the system, you're never exposing yourself to them again. In the upper portion of these vacuums, you've got a large cyclonic pre-filter. That pre-filter is washable and reusable, and is going to stop about 95% of the dust that comes into these systems. Only about 5% of the dust is going to get into the back of the vacuum where the HEPA filters exist. You can see here at the back of the vacuum, that's where our HEPA filter is. What that means is we are not going to be spending tons and tons of money constantly replacing HEPA filters. They can be quite expensive, costing maybe $120 to $130, $140 per filter. If you're looking at a canister style vacuum, for example, that's what it might cost you to replace. And in those systems, you're basically putting 100% of the dust through that filter at all times. There's only one filter, and it's a HEPA, and it's taking the brunt of all of that material. So you'll be replacing them regularly. Whereas with these systems, if we're stopping 95% of the dust of that pre-filter, our cost of ownership has sunk significantly. And that's a really, really huge benefit of these units here. Basically, cleaning, you can purge these units to clean them while you're working on a job site. And on a Friday afternoon, for example, when you're done your work, you can pull those pre-filters out, spray them down with a hose, and set them on the shelf to dry over the weekend, and you're ready to go on Monday morning. Very, very good systems. On the right-hand side here, you're going to see our A2000 and our A600 air scrubbers. So if you're in an application where dust control is absolutely critical, these are really, really good tools to have that are going to be cleaning the ambient air. Of course, you want to be collecting the dust at the source, but inevitably some of that dust is going to escape, and by having an air scrubber present, you can try to clean up some of that air that's floating around, either residential or if you're in a critical application where dust cannot be leaving the area where you're working. From there, we go on to the large planetary grinders. We've got a huge wide range of options here. These are commonly used in industrial and commercial applications. Contractors that are doing epoxy installations or polish work, restoration work in parking garages will get into this kind of equipment, removing waterproofing membranes or putting just a scratch to the floor so that some other material can be applied. There are some really great videos of those as well. And of course, we have larger vacuum systems that are going to be suited to those as well. I'm not going to get into these in great depth today, but I just wanted to let everybody know that these are available, and there's lots of opportunities for work like this out there. Okay, so here you can see some of the applications that you might get into with some of this grinding work. Okay, so removing glues, adhesives, mastics, epoxies, paints, thin sets, leveling compounds, you name it. These grinders are wonderful tools for prepping and removing materials from concrete floors. Concrete repair, if you've got an uneven surface, you've got high spots, trip hazards, rain damage, these grinders can be used for that as well. Concrete polishing. So this is kind of the prettiest aspect of what these grinders are used for. You can see in the top left-hand corner, you can take a concrete slab and produce a low-gloss industrial finish. Maybe you want a bit of a medium gloss, which is more of a commercial finish, or you can even go as far as producing a high gloss premium, what we call a hyperfloor finish, something that you might see in, for example, a car dealership, a car showroom. I I've even seen this type of work being done in custom homes, in residential applications. Really, really beautiful, long-lasting, durable floors. You can take what looks like an ugly concrete slab and turn it into something that's beautiful and reflective and easy to clean and maintain. So there's all sorts of different applications for these kind of machines. So, as you can see, we've gotten into a lot of different aspects of the job site here that we can get into. We've done site prep and compaction, flat work, concrete forming and placement, sawing and drilling, dust control, hardscaping, epoxy coatings, paving, and facility maintenance. There's a lot of different things that we can get into and assist with on these job sites, and that kind of leads us into a complete solution. So Husqvarna can basically offer a complete package of products that allow you to do work in the concrete and stone industry. Any stage of the job, from beginning all the way to an old building that needs to be restored, there's something that can be done with the range of products that we have here for you. And of course, we don't want to forget that just as there's a right piece of equipment for every job, there is also a right diamond tool for every job. So that's really a critical component to making sure that the saw that you bought or the grinder that you bought is going to do what you want it to do, based on what you're cutting or what you're grinding. Really, really important to match that diamond tool with that application, like we talked about earlier. And here I've just got some examples of what tool packages might look like depending on the type of work that you get into. So you've got your quick cut saw, your diamond blade, compaction. Maybe you're doing compaction for, you're going to lay a driveway, you're going to pour a slab, you're going to lay some stone. You've got a masonry saw. So a landscaper, there's a bunch of different tools and equipment here that makes sense for him to have in his trailer. Slab on grade, forming contractors. I mean, tons of stuff. Cup wheels for grinding foundations. Bull floats for leveling out the concrete. Vibrators, soft-cut saws, walk behind trowels or ride on trowels, depending on the size of the job. If you work in a facility, trip hazards, floor maintenance, dust control, there's lots of different applications there. Paving contractors, they're going to get into compaction. They're going to get into sawing asphalt, sawing concrete. Probably a quick cut would fit in on this slide as well. Restoration work. I mean, guys that do restoration get into all kinds of stuff. You've got your quick cut saws, your grinders if you're doing parking garage restoration. You've got tuck point blades if you're doing mortar restoration on a brick building, for example. Dust control, critical. A lot of these buildings are in operation. They're in use. Dust control, critical for those applications. Core drilling, running conduit, things like that. So that's kind of what I have prepared for the presentation for today. But I did want to introduce something else to you. We've been talking a lot about dust control, and a lot of this is driven by the OSHA regulations that are in the pipeline. They're being driven by California, and they're spreading across the U.S. and Canada. If you've worked on job sites, you probably have seen site inspectors out, and they're talking a lot more about if you're producing dust, what is your plan to control it? And as you can see, we've got a lot of equipment and tools that are prepared to help you with that. But sometimes you don't want to use water, and so there's something here that I think you guys will be interested in. And this is Husqvarna's new range of gas-powered saws that are going to help you with dust control. We've got two versions of it. We've got a vac saw that hooks up to an external vacuum, and what we call a dry cut, which is going to be an independent tool that uses an impeller to draw the dust off of the blade and into a collection bag. So I'm going to show you guys this video here. I hope you enjoy it, and please ask me questions if anything comes up for you. Hopefully this will go full screen. Oh, okay, let's try again. Okay, so that concludes the presentation for today. Thank you to anybody that was watching with us today. I really appreciate the attention and the opportunity to speak to you guys. Thank you very much to the Canadian Equipment Outfitters team for inviting me to do this today with you. My hope is that you took something away from it, or you learned something you didn't know. And as always, thanks for the opportunity. But I'm going to sign off now, and hopefully you guys have a great day.